Good afternoon, everyone. Today I'm speaking with Rosemary Atwell and Jack Cobbs, who are designers and stagers for a company that Rosemary owns called Accessorease. Jack and Rosemary, welcome. Do you want to introduce yourselves?
Hi, I'm Rosemary. And Jack?
Rosemary, tell me about Accessorease. How did you start Accessorease and what's your background?
I started Accessorease quite a while ago, but it was for more of a design consultation. And then when the opportunity came up for me to go into home staging, I just rolled that company into that. Jack and I met when we both worked for Ethan Allen, and we just stayed in touch after each of us left, even though I moved around a little bit, but Jack always kind of seemed to pop up. So when the staging business started, I got a call out of the blue from him, and we got together and did our first project, and it went from there. And that was about 4 years ago.
Yeah, correct.
So part of the reason why I wanted to interview you as stagers is, as a realtor, I consider that, working with a stager is a vital part of the service that I can provide to clients when selling their home. And there's several reasons behind that. I mean, there are a number of studies that have been done which show that staging really helps in the sale of a home, both in terms of the number of days on market, as well as increasing the value of the home, which in some studies has said that actually about 22% of realtors believe that home staging has increased the value of the home by between 1 to 5%, which can be quite significant. Rosemary, would you add to that? What would you say about the value of staging?
I think it's completely beneficial. It is much easier to market a staged home versus a vacant home. I have numbers that are a little bit higher as far as the increase in the price, up to 20%, which, that obviously depends on which area you are in. But I think a staged home will definitely sell faster and at a higher price than an unstaged home. We have personally staged homes where they have been in bidding wars. And we also have experiences where a home was on the market for a year. There was a switch in realtors. It was previously unstaged, and then we came in and staged it. And one of them sold within a week. Others were very close behind that. So we personally can vouch for the fact that the staging does work and is beneficial.
Absolutely. And actually, one of the National Association of Realtors studies actually said that, 53% of sellers' agents say that it decreases the amount of time a home spends on the market quite significantly. I mean, my experience, I'll just talk to something that happened recently. You helped me on the staging of a property in Clarksburg, a townhome in Clarksburg. Mm-hmm. And I know that a competitor property was on the market for 45 days, whereas ours was on and technically under contract within 13, but actually the agreement had happened 11 days in. And that's a remarkable difference if you compare one to the other. It's right. Like a quarter of the time on the market. Correct. And I know for a fact that ours went for a higher pricing too.
Awesome.
which is exactly what right. the stats tell us.
Wanted. Right.
And something just to in that same vein, when a seller has a home that is not staged and that's sitting on the market and they keep taking price reductions, if they put that money towards staging, it would, in the long term or long run, they would spend less money on staging than they're taking in a price reduction.
Right. In a price reduction, you've got to consider both the price reduction, plus you've got to consider that they're still most often paying a mortgage.
Correct. Right.
During the time that, we are trying to sell that house.
If they had just
So-
started to begin with and put the staging in place, you know, I can't guarantee that, but they probably would have had a faster sale,
Right.
or, you know, or brought in more money.
So tell me a little bit about staging. Let's get into some of the technical things. When you go into a home, I mean, what are the most important areas that you want to hit for staging? So if you had a limited budget, which are the rooms that you would say, okay, these are a must do?
You start with the living space, or the main living room. The dining room, the kitchen, and the master bedroom are the most popular.
Yes.
Now we've done it where, we've done a family room, or we've done an office, but we hit four main rooms. And Jack, I'll let you speak on the master, because that's his favorite, area.
That's my favorite room of the whole entire home. Yes. Yeah. The master's always very important because that's where you lay your head. It's your home. So that's why it has to look its best. Whether it's a
retreat, so you want it to be,
whether large or small, that's a very important room of a house. Yeah, it really is.
And then the living space is, when you walk in that front door, that's going to be usually the first area that you see.
Right.
So you want to make that first impression.
Right.
You should have already made it online with the photographs, and that's why they're there at that door going in.
Right.
But it's very important to do that.
Yes.
Absolutely, and in fact, from our perspective as realtors, we know that at least 97% of buyers are now starting off online.
Yes.
And that the chances of them staying on a picture and being more engaged with the listing are significantly higher. I think it's like 84% higher if the home is staged in the photographs, because it really pulls them through the photograph and into the space versus looking at, kind of one wall after another wall, which is empty.
Right. Correct.
Right.
Which is really important.
There's another side to that too, is, not all staging is the same. If it's professionally done and correctly done, then yes, that's what you want to get. You'll get those results. But some people, might think that just putting a chair here, or, a little table, the wrong size table or the wrong scale of things. And that can be as detrimental as having a vacant home, because it doesn't do justice for the room. It's not going to do justice for the photos. So you have to think about that too.
Right. And also what you decide to leave around in the staging or place in the staging. I mean, one of the things that I like about how you stage is that there is a lot of, you put in a lot of accessories, but accessories of a good quality. It's not like, it's kind of cheap little gizmos around that, kind of
Never that.
fill a space.
Never that.
No, I choose inventory very carefully. And I want it to be different. We have a certain look that we like, that we're comfortable with. And that doesn't mean that we can only do, whether it's a contemporary home, a colonial, we adapt to fit whatever space it is.
Right, correct.
So when you walk into a space, what are the things that you're looking at? What are the things that offset for you? Is it lighting, space? Is it how you'd fill it with text? What are the things that you begin to think of?
The main things that I look at are, first of all, the size of the space, the style of the home. You think about how the curb appeal is, and then going into that front door, and we're going to get a sense of feel for the home. We're going to think about how it's going to photograph. How we're going to place our furniture so that it photographs well. And the main thing is we think about the demographics. Who are the potential buyers for this home, and what inventory do I have that is going to appeal to those buyers? And and we go from there. And
that's tremendously important, because you really do range from kind of houses which may be in the 300,000 price range through to $1 million homes.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's when Jack and I we've worked together for a long time now, and that's when we bounce ideas off of each other. We might bounce each other too, but no. No, but we bounce ideas off of each other and push each other creatively, and come up with, different room ideas, for each home that we do. We don't, we might use the same item in another home, but we're not going to set it up the exact same way.
Right. Now, just to highlight, you actually prefer to do vacant home stagings. There are also stagers who do stagings using partly their own stuff and partly a homeowner's stuff, right?
Yes, I have done that on a very limited basis. It's not ideal for me to do that, but it is a case-by-case basis. If there's a homeowner and they may just need, excuse me, a couple of items, then I can do that. But I do not do, a completely staged home and have them, live in it.
Right. And let's talk some pricings. And I'm going to be very general here because I don't want to box you in because each situation is different.
Correct.
But to viewers, what I'd encourage you to do is I'm going to talk to a particular address, and Rosemary can give you another address if you want to check it online. But just to give you an idea of what that kind of staging would cost in a house of that kind of square footage. So I recently listed a property on Basswood Hill Drive in Clarksburg, 23108. And I'm just giving you this so that if you wanted to look at the staging, you could go online and check it on something like realtor.com or something. Now, that property had what we call partial staging, where we staged the master bedroom, the living room, which was a joint space. It was living room dining. Correct. And then the kitchen, which was partially staged, just a few items in the kitchen itself, but there was also a little dining area that Rosemary really turned into a lovely little kind of bar area. Well, not a bar, what would you call it? A cafe table area.
Yeah, bistro table, yeah.
A bistro table, thank you. Now, something like that, where you've essentially kind of just on those main areas that were discussed, what would something like that cost in terms of the staging? And again, I don't want to, nail you down, but just give a broad idea of what that might be.
Right.
Well, just in general, my staging would start at $1,900 and go up from there.
Right.
So that home probably would be around $2,100. If we were to do, we were talking about that home at the time, but if we were to do that complete home, because it had quite a bit, and actually was
it had a huge, it had two downstairs basement with a large living space, an office area, and an additional bedroom and bathroom.
Correct. And that would probably run $3,500 and up to do if we had done that whole house, and with all of, the more accessorizing, because that would require a lot of artwork, lighting, just a lot, because we did. I wouldn't say the bare minimum on that house, but we didn't do, full blown staging of that.
Right. And obviously, as you go up and you move into, something which is in the luxury sector, you are talking about, you utilizing a lot of different items that would, push the staging price, kind of way beyond that, depending on the space, what kind of things you're moving in.
Right.
I got something.
I'm making you cry.
I know. Can you give me a break?
So
I'll be right back.
When you are when you go into homes, a lot of the colors used, and I'm talking paint wise. Paint is a big factor when taking somebody into a home. and having fresh paint and a more clear kind of space around you really helps. The past few years, there have been a lot of grays and light grays and very neutral colors. Are you seeing that changing at all?
I wish I would see it more. Yeah, the grays need to go. They've been around. Gray is a very easy color to work with, but you know, to have it on every wall in the whole house, in every house you go in, it's a little much.
So having an accent wall sometimes really helps.
Not really, no.
Not really, no.
Okay.
No, you want it to flow.
Right.
It's kind of like if you think about it, flooring. You know, if you're doing a hardwood floor and all of a sudden you go into the kitchen and it's a different hardwood floor. That's
Right.
completely break up the flow of the house.
So do you ever work with other contractors when you're prepping a house for staging? Do you ever go in and say, well, you know, ideally I would like, you know, this to be painted this color?
Yes, we've done that.
Yeah, a couple of homes we have done that, yes.
Mm-hmm. And that's very fortunate when we can do that. That's
right.
That helps us a lot, and it helps.
Often.
Yeah, I mean, I'm saying it helps us, but it, you know, in the end, it helps the seller, because you know, the amount of money that they're going to put into paint, they're going to get that back probably 2 or 3 times.
Yes.
Right.
Just by having a fresh, clean slate.
Yeah. And
a more neutral slate that, you know, once again, the buyer can look at that and say, well, I can move right in. I don't have to do any of this.
Right.
So that's
so now tell me, when you've staged a house, who's responsible for the furnishings in the house? Like, you know, you've gone in, it's vacant now, you put all your own staging effects in there. What happens if something is stolen or if something is damaged? Who is covered?
I have insurance that covers my inventory.
Okay.
But if there was a catastrophe, let's say a fire or, you know, something like that, I'm sure that it would be between the homeowner's insurance and mine. Something small, you know, or let's say something gets damaged, that would be between whoever, you know, whoever's paying me, whether it's the realtor or the homeowner. Right. That would be between the two of us. That's, you know, as far as taking care of.
Well, certainly in any contract with your realtor, there is a very clear area where it talks about the homeowner has to make sure that there is adequate home insurance, because we can't guarantee necessarily with, you know, other realtors bringing clients through that something wouldn't happen in the home. Correct. So it's always important to make sure that your insurance is up to date and that you have good coverage.
Correct.
Yes.
So tell me, when, in your experience as stagers, what have been some of the most unusual home stagings that you've had to work with, whether it be in terms of the kind of space that you've got, or I don't know, what are some unusual ones that you've had to deal with?
Well, as you know, we had to stage a lobby of a hotel. That was the most unusual.
And that was actually, so viewers can know, the Women's Council of Realtors in Frederick had a meeting, and I proposed to Rosemary and Jack that what they did was they actually staged the entrance area, so as all the realtors walked through, they could get a sense of it.
Yes, and people thought that we were redoing the lobby.
Yes, they did, yeah.
Jack can probably tell you about one that we did in Hagerstown.
Yes, we had a home, we had a stage here in Hagerstown, and which was a lovely home, but the idea of the home itself is like it was a continuous of add-on room, add-on room, and add-on room. But the thing is, when we came in, went in to stage it, we made those add-on rooms look like it actually belongs there. So it worked out well.
We changed the function of a couple of the rooms, and then it made sense for people when they came in.
Right.
Right.
So that was very, and the house sold shortly after that too, after we staged it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we had
another home previously for a year.
Right.
With
another home in Middletown Yeah, we had another home in Middletown as well too. This is on the market for a long time as well. And we came in and staged that, and it sold within 7 to 10 days.
Oh yeah, that was a quick one.
Yeah, that was
The house wasn't the house, that space wasn't unusual, but
no,
there were furnishings in it that were just out of scale for the home.
Right.
And it wasn't done right. And so when they're out of scale, if they're too large, it's going to make those rooms look really small. And that was that particular case.
Yeah.
That
was the case with that home.
So.
Now I know, not everyone is necessarily able to present a vacant home for staging, because often people are living in the home at the time. So, from a realtor's perspective, what we often recommend is, number one, you're decluttering your home, you're cleaning the home from top to bottom. If possible, any evidence of pets is, kind of taken out of view. That you're cleaning the carpets, you're doing any minor repairs and so on. But one of the big things is around depersonalizing. Can you maybe talk to a little bit of that? Kind of what do we mean by depersonalizing a home and decluttering?
Decluttering is more like organization. If you've got piles and piles of magazines or just clutter, you either need to remove it. If you want to go through it and organize it, that's fine, but you still need to have it out of sight. Removing anything personal, those are going to be personal photos. Anything that has to do, diplomas, anything that people would hang on the walls, anything that they put on the refrigerators.
And if you're a hunter, no heads.
Right, none at all.
No pelts. No heads.
We have had that. And it might appeal to someone, but then again, it's probably not going to appeal to a broad range of buyers.
Right.
And the reason you get rid of or pack up the personal items, number one, when people are coming into your home, you don't want them to get too caught up in your personal life, whereas where they're not.
Right, because having taken many people through homes, what you want them to imagine is how they could utilize the space, not that they're invading somebody else's space.
Correct. Mm-hmm. That is
so, yeah. And it's important too, like for the closets and bedrooms, that they organize them, and they're not too crowded or cluttered, because then it looks like they're too small.
Right.
So you've got to, even though those little personal spaces, they have to be organized and cleaned up.
And in some cases, I've actually even seen people color code their clothing, so it goes from kind of whites through grays, blues into the deep colors, which leaves me endlessly impressed. But that wouldn't be where my key skill would be. Yeah,
it's more visually appealing to do it that way.
Right. Yeah.
But the main thing is not to have a lot on the floor. You want the floor space clear. Anything up on the shelves, you want it organized, or just take it out. If you're going to move, just take it out and pack it up.
So talking floor space, if people have carpets, is it better to show off the hardwood floors, or is it better to show, have a carpet?
Hardwood floors.
Or a rug, rather. Hardwood floors.
Yes.
Well, hardwood floors are more desirable.
Right.
But not everybody can do that. And typically they, upstairs they'll have carpet.
Right.
But if your carpet is stained and old and tired, once again,
right, you need new carpet down.
You need to redo your floors.
Clean it, recarpet it.
And you'll get money back on that. As long as you don't pick something that's, you got to pick something neutral.
Right. And now, do you ever do the kind of inside to outside? Do you do much external staging as well, kind of in outdoor areas?
We've only done, we've done it, but usually not. I mean, it's going to be more cost to the homeowner, or, whoever's paying for that. But,
right.
And it's also something that, if the home is vacant, which, would be, I don't necessarily want my outdoor furniture out there all the time, that no one's keeping an eye on it, or
Right.
It could be damaged by the elements or, you know, whatever else. So
yeah. So that again it just speaks to something else, which for me as a realtor is, you know, when it's the whole package. When you're coming up to the home, the curb appeal is tremendously important because it's the person's first experience of the home. So doing some external landscaping and just making sure that it looks good as you're coming up to it.
Correct.
And then as you walk into it.
Right.
Yeah. And now this time of year is perfect, you know, with all the spring bulbs coming up and lots of color in the trees.
Right.
But, you know, when you're marketing a home in the winter, it's important too, not to have, you know, all the leaves and everything in the bed. So, you know, you still have to clean it up and get that curb appeal going.
Right. So, last question: Are there any particular spaces that are really difficult to stage, or I mean, actually, I'm just thinking like pantries. What do you recommend in pantries? And, you know, what do you do there? Do you leave it?
I mean, just vacant
stages.
Just leave it empty. Just leave it empty.
Turn the light off and close the door.
Yeah, just leave it empty. Yeah. Because
no,
those spaces are what they are. You know, a pantry, it is what it is. You know, so you just leave it empty. You really don't need anything in it.
That, Nicole, that is kind of getting into too much detail.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that's not something that's going to have to be or to appeal to a buyer. I mean,
right.
Now, if it's occupied, you know, I do tell the homeowner, make sure it's organized.
Right.
Correct.
Right. But in a vacant home, no.
I think it was the movie Sleeping with the Enemy, where I remember the husband used to keep things in an exact line, all the cans exactly lined up. And I think that would completely freak me out. But I have seen something similar done when I've walked into,
we've seen them. We've got
occupied homes where at least it's been very well organized.
Right, exactly.
Right. But no, pantries and, you know, inside kitchen cabinets, you don't, you know, we personally don't do anything.
Right.
No.
Right. Although, just a word to homeowners, people look in them. They open your drawers, they open your cupboards. So if you are going to be in the home and, you know, you are doing some of the staging or using somebody to semi-stage, do think about that. You know, try and clear things out. Another tip is just never have any drugs whatsoever available or in anyone's purview, because, you know, it's just a liability.
Right.
Well, Rosemary and Jack, thank you so much. Anything else that you want to add that you feel might be important that we didn't cover?
Just make sure the space is always fresh and clean. It's very important.
Yeah.
Very important.
And that makes our job a lot easier, and it's going to come back to you in the, you know, price of the home. So that's about it.
Yeah, that's it.
Super. Well, thank you so much for your time. Stay safe, and I look forward to working with you guys again.
All right. Thanks, Nicole.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.